Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. Thank you so much for being here today. Full disclosure, I am recording this over this past weekend. Okay, you're going to be seeing this on Tuesday. So before anything has started, I'm wanting to take a look at the witnesses that are coming up in the New York case. So you have Don Jr., and then you have Eric, and then you have Ivanka, who lost her bid to not have to testify, and then the former guy himself. So aside from the fact that in other cases there's people flipping all over the place, he had to sit through a whole bunch of Michael Cohen's testimony in that court. He got fined. It's I guess he's not having a great time. So I want to pop in. I want to take a look at the family dynamics, the Trump family dynamics, and and see how the orange guy's doing with those walls closing in and becoming tighter and tighter and tighter. I was very pleased to see that the shooter from Maine was found over the weekend, as the pendulum suggested, and as the pendulum said, he would not be found alive. And fortunately, that's how it was. Um, so hopefully, those good people of Maine can slowly start the healing process, and hopefully politicians will soon. It was refreshing to see the Republican, I'm not sure what he was, but for that area, saying that he had always fought against restrictions or whatever, but he would be now, fighting on the opposite side. So that was interesting to see. I can't remember who this guy was. I just know he belonged to that. He was a politician from that area. I'll leave it at that. All right. So let's take a peek at Donald Trump and family dynamics. Start with the family and see if I need to do two separate readings or not. Trump family dynamics, Trump family dynamics, Trump family dynamics. Okay. Starting with the Ace of Swords. So this is just reflective of the fact that there's all this legal stuff going on around them. There is this search for the truth. There is the knowledge by many family members that speaking the truth would not actually be in their best interest. Now, this is a civil case, and that means when you refuse to answer a question, you can take an adverse meaning from that. So you can't do that apparently in a criminal trial, but this is civil, and so they can. So every time one of them says, I can't answer that based on my Fifth Amendment right, the judge gets to sort of mark that as a negative, if you will. So right now, the focus truly is on everything that's going on this weekend. As I'm looking forward into the weekend, you guys looking back. This weekend's energy looks fraught. It's testy. You have a lot of people who are snipping and sniping at each other. John Jr. in particular, they're showing me, and he's almost like spiraling. His performance on the stand is going to be that there's going to be a lot of trying to say things that booster his dad, but not answering the question he's asked. The defense is going to allow this nonsense. The prosecution is not. They're going to be pretty tight about what they do and what they want him to answer. It's going to be interesting. Eric is a little bit of cooler head, they're showing me, but Eric is going to be just fraught with a memory that just can't retain anything. So that seems to be the strategy coming from Eric. Ivanka's going to end up sort of being treated as a hostile witness because she tried everything that she could to avoid having to testify. And because she's not a defendant in this case, so she's basically testifying against her family. I mean, that's just how it is. Um, you'll notice that it's not the prosecution, or it's the prosecution that is bringing her in. It's not the defense who is saying, "Oh, let me bring in these people to, bolster, Trump's amazing reputation." These are people coming in for the prosecution. So for her, it looks as if they're kind of just showing me sort of her trying to whitewash is the word they're giving me, things, right? I mean, Donald Trump was yelling and screaming at Mike Pence about overturning the government and swearing at him and calling some other rude names. And she said that her father was a bit heated, I think was the word she used. So she's going to try to put a soft spin on everything at the same time, making sure, doing everything that she can to ensure that her reputation, her power base, etc., is uninterrupted or not disturbed. Um, there is a great deal of worry and concern within the family about their assets in New York being frozen and business licenses pulled. And even now, their lawyers are working out things for appeal, and they're, trying to figure out how to maneuver things. But it's interesting because in the Trump energy, in the Trump family energy, the primary motivation is don't lose the money, win that at all costs. But there is also equally this real concern about um like just getting caught in lies, just because this is the thing, right? When you're a liar and you lie all the time, it it's so normal for you, it's so natural for you that you really probably by and large don't remember a lot of the little things that you have lied about. Right? You're going to remember the big things. Like, yeah, you know what? That was not an insurrection and they were just tourists. And, they remember those ones, I'm sure. But the smaller ones, that's where they're going to get caught up and they know it because they're not really sure what they said in a whole bunch of areas, whether it was to insurance companies or banks or whether it was to, clients, whatever it is. So there's a lot of that. They're trying to really try to sort out exactly what anybody remembers. So this is why I'm looking at this. I'll just quickly show you the cards. So after that Ace of Wands, we have the King of Cups. Okay, so this is the emotional, sort of, rational, male energy, and this very much feels like, well, if I just stay firm and dig my heels in, I'm going to win. Doesn't usually work that way. We have the Four of Wands. So this is talking about that family unit coming together and doing everything they sort of can as a family to keep it together. But make no mistake, every single one of them has their own motivation, their own story that they want to get out. That, of course, um, shows their innocence. You have the Hierophant. Okay, so again, this is the court system. These are the lawyers. And what's going to happen is that the nonsense that they get to spew on Fox or OAN or whatever that's called, or any of the others, is not going to be tolerated in a courtroom. And so they're going to be finding that they're getting their wings snipped. And then you have the 10 and the 7 of Pentacles. So this is talking about the families concern about their money, their reputation, their brand, etc., etc. and that sense of already trying to figure out how to escape, what I think in all reality they recognize as the writing on the wall. This is the interesting thing about Trump Sr. is that he can live in a fantasy world where, his 11,000 square foot condo is 33,000 square feet. Um, but when it comes to the business, his money, his reputation, he's very clear-headed. Don't kid yourself. Um, and so of all the trials, this is the one that is the most frightening for him in some ways, certainly at this point in time. I think a little bit down the road he could get a little wigged out about things like jail sentences, but we all know that's not likely to happen. But this is the one that really goes after his life, his livelihood, his legacy, all of that kind of stuff. And so this is the one that is impacting him, if you will, the hardest right now. Also, let's not forget he's really good at compartmentalizing, right? And so this is the big thing in front of him. This is all he's focusing on. He recognizes, though, that things are not going to end well for him. They're really, really not. Because when it comes to money and assets, he just keeps thinking that what he did in the past, how things were handled in the past, are going to be what saves him. And what he doesn't understand is things that went on in the past, and um, those days are gone. And when you have sort of the law breathing down your neck, um, the excuse of, well, everybody else was doing it, doesn't really tend to sit very well. So what you have here is the 8 and 10 of swords. This is a really good depiction of how the family feels right now and how the overall energy surrounding the Trump family feels right now. So that's like interesting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just reshuffle these cards because I want to take a look at Trump specifically. I don't quite. Oh, for those of you who might be following along, there's a case going on in Colorado, where they're trying to get Trump removed from the ballot or not put on the ballot, and I guess the latest defensive move on that, whatever it was, has been rejected by the court. So as of right now, that case is continuing to go forward. If that one manages to move forward in a way that is successful, you can bet that there's a lineup of other states who also want to keep him off the ballot. So, we'll see how it's a body blow after body blow with this guy. And if somebody reminded me in the comment section the other day, at one point I said something like there's going to be, sort of 1,000 arrows being flung at this guy, and some of them are going to hit their mark. And, that's kind of exactly what's happening. The best of the best, if you will, or the most and easy to prove, maybe, kind of a stretch. The worst things that he's done are now being put on trial. Okay, that's, I think, what I'm trying to say. Not very well either. Okay, so the 5 of Swords, so whatever he can steal or take by whatever means. Oh, look here, he's sitting at the bottom of my deck here, with the King of Pentacles, and then the 3 of Swords, right? So he's going to continue on this path, but ultimately it really is going to end up in some kind of serious heartache for this guy. So let's just focus in and see how Trump is doing. He very much takes to heart, I guess, if as you will, criticisms or critiques about the value of his properties, about the way he has valued it. He will continue to maintain that his made up numbers are actually absolutely acceptable and reflect current economic markets, or I don't know, some such nonsense. But it just feels like one hit after another after another. Okay, so let's see what the cards have to say, shall we? Um, Tell me Trump now, tell me Trump now, tell me Trump now. He is still very much in a place where, despite sort of the anger and the acting out and all of that kind of thing, he still believes that being, stoic and sort of angry is the best way for him to handle it. He sees that sort of look as his strength, which is kind of a sad thing, but that's what we're going with here. He is very much thinking about how to escape this, alternatives. Um, he's trying to figure out a way to maneuver around what's going on. Right now, I'm not getting that, like, for example, I'm not seeing definitive plans for him to try to escape the country. He's not going to go anywhere as long as the businesses are being impacted. Okay. That is where his attention and focus is right now. He's starting to feel, however, the chaotic, that uptick in energy, that momentum that has started up with the chariot. And part of what's going on is he sees these people who are banding together, but against him. Three of Cups. He, because he's him, is mostly worried about money and assets, name, brand, reputation, that kind of thing. In some ways, he really can't figure out which way to move and which way to maneuver. He can't figure out how to get out of where he's at right now. Um, and it really frightens him. Page of wands here. It concerns him that the right message isn't getting out. I heard, those little rants he has in the hallways of the courthouse. Apparently, even the mainstream media is now kind of boycotting them, or not really there. They're not really paying a lot of attention because it's just him blustering and yelling and screaming. Um, his greatest fears in this situation are going to be realized. Here we go. Five of Wands. Okay, so this is the information that is coming out. It is the information that is coming out that is not flattering to him or not helpful to him. And of course, this is going on all over the place, right? I mean, he's got, his accountant and all of those kinds of people having to testify in New York. He has people in Georgia flipping. And by the way, there's going to be significant more flips that take place in the coming weeks. Some of the lower grade people, the ones whose names we don't really know, a lot of them look like they're sorting things out so that they can get out from under this. So don't be surprised if there's sort of more flips. Anyways, I digress. Okay, so he's scared of everything that's going to come out. The moon. He doesn't want it to come out. He wants things to stay in shadows, and he doesn't seem to be able to do that. He has finally found his match in the court system. And it's just right, because he used that court system for so many years to manipulate contractors, et cetera, so that he could get his way, so that he could, destroy them and then just step over them on his way out the door. So it's really fitting that the court system has now sort of turned and looked at him very squarely in the eye. He does not want what is coming out. And he knows that it's going to, and that just makes him more and more angry and more frustrated and more volatile. He is not thinking clearly, he is not speaking clearly, he is not even moving with sort of any kind of fluid movement forward, although he always lumbered. But anyways, um, there's all these different aspects that are coming together within his energy, that is really, really sort of causing these spirals. He's really scared of getting on the stand. That little smidgen that he had to do with the lawyer last week, where he made him come on the stand and explain a comment that he made outside the courtroom, um, that wicked him out. Okay, that kind of shook him up, and so he's not looking forward to that. There's going to be, I don't know, they're saying there's going to be some stuff this week where they're still going to try to maneuver, wiggle around, get out of it. I don't see that working. It looks like it's going to be a very, very successful week for the prosecution. And the defense will realize that, in fact, they are carrying more burdens than they even thought. It's going to be a harder climb up. And again, more and more information coming out in a way that can't kind of be controlled. So, energetically, what do I see when I step into his energy? Look at, I automatically go into that defensive posture of his. Tell me, tell me. Yeah, so there's fury. There is fear. Anybody who's really foolish enough to hang out around him over the next several days is going to truly feel like they're being used as a punching bag, and in fact, they are. Um, it looks like there's a fair number of communications, phone calls, that kind of thing, going back and forth between Trump family lawyers. They're trying to get these guys prepped for the trial. Um, Trump has no qualms, even now, throwing one or all of his kids under the bus if he thinks that that's what it's going to take. Um, and interestingly, Eric knows that, Ivanka knows that, Don Jr. not so much. So what you're dealing with right now is somebody who is in their body and not feeling great in their body. Just the volume of stress and anxiety would make anyone not feel good, and his is amplified because he has that narcissistic personality, and his ego gets in the way, and so everything is a slight and everything is a big deal. And that's kind of where we're at, right? We've got this guy who's angry and annoyed and frustrated and mad and not physically feeling well, and his thoughts are no longer clear. He's been mixing up countries and leaders of countries and all that kind of stuff. He can't keep a thought clear in his head. He's very frightened. As right now, his primary function, his primary fear is the Trump Corp and that money. Um, so that's where his focus is, and that's what I know for right now. Thank you so very much for being here. It's always a pleasure to connect with you. Tomorrow there is going to be, the mini is about the new speaker, Mike Johnson. And that's what I know. Don't forget to add your pendulum questions in the comment section of this and this week's video so we can get to them on Pendulum Friday. Thank you so much for being here. Bye bye now.